Lacey Everett here with Minds in Motion. Today's guest is Ethan Young, who is a bison manager for the Grizzly Ridge Bison Ranch in Montana. Minds in Motion is also on Spotify now at Minds in Motion, and you can find us on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Minds in Motion YouTube channel because it helps us to grow our community, share the love, spread the love. He's not only going to teach us wonderful mental health tips and tricks and life lessons that he learned that can really translate into any area in our life, whether you work at a bison ranch with animals or whether you are a school teacher, a dancer, whatever it may be. He's going to talk to us about the day in the life of his job and what it's like for him at the ranch and some interesting stories that have happened to him. Also talking about the day in the life of a farmer living in Montana. I love this discussion that we have because it builds awareness around what a farmer's life is like and how different that is than what, say, a person who lives in California's life is like. So it's going to be really eye-opening. He is so positive, and you're going to leave this discussion with such an uplifted feeling. Then also talks about the best part of his job, the worst part of his job, and how to overcome that. He also gives us little tips on what bison are like and how fierce they are, and it's really such an iconic species. Ethan's going to tell us about how his mindset has helped him with this line of work, which is hard work, and in life. So let's go meet Ethan. Hi, Ethan.
Hello, Lacey.
Thank you so much for doing this and taking the time out of your busy day on the Bison Ranch to talk about the day in the life, mindset tips. What you do is absolutely so fascinating, Ethan. So I'm really excited for us to talk about it.
Well, I'm glad to be on, and I hope I can give you as much information in an unbiased format as I can.
Yes, unbiased. Yep. It's hard to notice our implicit biases, so I appreciate that.
What's common for one person I know is very, I guess, uncommon or just unfathomable for other people. So I'll try to do my best to explain.
Absolutely. I thought we could just start with what is the day in the life like for you as a bison manager at the Grizzly Ridge Bison Ranch in Montana? What is it?
Well, luckily it changes every day. It's not a broken record where you just keep on repeating things every day. At this time of year, going into the fall, we're right now putting up our hay forage crops to feed the bison through the winter. So we have out there, you have to cut the hay, bale it, put it up. But more right now, it's a very dry year, so you have to have kids and myself on fire watch, because if anything sparks a fire from a piece of the equipment, it could burn through your entire crop, take out all the fields, and then be going off into a wildfire. So right now it's like watching for that, but at the same time, you have certain projects you can only do during the summer months when the ground's not frozen. So it's going in, installing new water systems through the pastures, electrical lines, anything that you have to possibly be digging in the soil. You try to accomplish it this time of the year, because given another month, you could possibly be having a blizzard come through and then everything freezes up and you're on your own until it thaws out again in the spring.
Wow, Ethan. So it sounds like it's a seasonal type job where during a certain time of the year you do this, and during a certain time of the year you do this. Would you say?
Yes, yeah. I mean, this time of year, you try to do as much outside that needs to be done as possible. Then as you're transitioning into the winter and the colder months, well, it's mainly you try not to do as much outside. You got to still feed all your animals. And we also wean all of our animals in the winters, where we bring them in, we have to work them, vaccinate them, cut the calves from the cows, put them back out to the pastures. And ideally, it's anytime you have to do outside work with welding equipment where you could start a fire, well, it's easier to weld in the snow where you're not going to start something on fire. So you bundle up and you do a lot of your welding work in corral building or facility buildings during the winter months, and then you wait for spring to come back and you start it all over.
Nice. talk about physical on your body, a lot on your body and your mind, I'm sure, and a lot that you have to really pay attention to because of the outside circumstances of the environment and whether it's snowing or whether you're on fire watch.
It is. You think ahead of, well, what you want to happen and also as to what could happen, the better you're going to be. You go out there and it's better to always prepare for the worst and just expect the best. But that way, say in the winter, you go out there and it's like, oh, it doesn't look like that bad of a day, but you might as well put on those couple extra layers because if it does get cold or a storm blows in, well, you can't put on layers that you don't have. But if it turns into a beautiful day, you can still take a couple layers off and you don't go and freeze yourself out there while you're working.
There you go. That's a great tip. Of wardrobe tips, mindset tips. We're doing it all right now.
That good mindset when you go to work, that's like, all right, everything's going to go right today. We're going to get this done. We're going to come home happy. It's going to be great. But at the same time, you want to, when you get there, you want to make sure it's just like, okay, say a fire does start. Okay, every single one, all my fire equipment is operational. It's in the right spots. The kids know where we're at. If something does happen, where do they need to go? Who do they need to get? Making sure everyone knows what they need to do, because in a intense situation, adrenaline gets going. Sometimes you don't think clearly and more mistakes can happen rather than know what you need to do, try to do it in as calm a manner as possible, even in an intense situation.
Admirable that you can find the calm in the chaos, it sounds like, or just be that prepared enough for if something does happen that's a fire, let's say, you will know what to do and you won't feel as fight or flight mode coming on.
Exactly. And I guess for myself, I've been able to develop it being, well, as a kid and even currently, it's like I had ADHD and I had a rather severe case of it. As a kid, I had to go and take my medication for it to calm myself down enough to focus on things. But it was very easy as a child to get distracted, never keep my mind focused on a certain thing, and always act before I thought out a situation. Usually got me in trouble 9 times out of 10. But as I got older and started to learn how to go and handle my condition without medication, actually just put it on myself to not let myself get ahead of thinking things through, I just kind of developed a habit to always go and think 3 or 4 steps ahead to make sure, okay, I'm not going to regret this as soon as I'm done with it. And I've been lucky that from my childhood and high school, it's carried on into later on in life and into my ethic.
Work ethic, yes. It sounds like you have an incredible work ethic, Ethan, truly. I think that is a wonderful life lesson to have that mindset of, okay, I can just be a couple steps ahead and that's enough for me. And kind of more living in the moment. As long as I'm prepared, I'll know I can perform. What would you say is your favorite part of the job?
There's a couple different sides of it. Here, of course, getting to work with these animals, working with bison is such a rare opportunity that most people have to travel to a national park, and you might get the chance to go and see one of these animals walking by if you're walking by at the roadside or out in one of the fields, and you get to appreciate them from a distance, which is safe and which is the best way. You have to remember these animals are wild. Even the animals that we raise, these are still a wild animal. They're not domesticated like cattle. They still have that flight or fight instinct. And when you put them into a situation, they are going to act wild and they are going to protect themselves. But being able to work with such a massive animal and such an iconic animal of the American West, you kind of take it for granted until you're right there next to a big bull working with them, or going into this time of year, they're getting ready to breed. So you have these big bulls bellowing at each other in the fields, dusting and rolling and fighting. You kind of got to stop for a second, sit there and just kind of, you let it sink in. And that's one of the unique things of this job, is just getting to appreciate these animals. Secondly, I wouldn't even say secondly, it's tied with the first, is that I get to work from home, or I get to live on the ranch. I get to work from home. I get to be with my family, where in other jobs, you're not lucky enough. You have to go to the office for 8 hours and then you have to take yourself home. You get to be with your family for only a couple hours a day. here I'm lucky that I can go out to do work, come back to my office in the house, see my family, see my son, and take care of family matters and ranch and business matters all at the same time.
Yes, Ethan, those two reasons are amazing. The first one, it's very prevalent in society that we're so go, 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 on to the next, that we don't even just sit in our own work that we do or whatever we're doing in the day, even just looking at a tree. We don't really just sit in the space and take it in. Like you mentioned, you kind of do that with your job with the bison. Hold on a sec. This is where I work. What? On all these acres of land and with this iconic animal, like you mentioned. What? Take it in, live in the moment. It sounds like that's really helped you.
It does. It's a grounding factor. I mean, of course, in any job that a person has, I mean, you have to get your work done. You're always focused on like, this step to the next step to the next step. I need to get this project done. There's timelines, and there's hardly ever enough hours in the day for anybody to get everything done. But being able to stop every now and then and not take for granted what other people have never seen, have never experienced, and just really appreciating where you're at, what you get to do, or just where you're at in life. It's a positive and grounding moment to recenter and refocus on what you're doing, and I think gives you a healthier attitude and lifestyle.
Yes, and evidence shows that we've seen with you it works. So it only is going to help us. And it's something so simple. It's just taking a step back, looking at your environment and grounding yourself, like you said. It's wonderful. And what would you say is the hardest part of the job?
Definitely winter.
Winter?
I know it's a very broad aspect, but I mean, during the summer months, yes, there's some physically demanding work. There's a lot of office. There's a lot of planning ahead, keeping projects rolling, making sure that everybody that works for the ranch has what they need to get jobs done. But as soon as winter comes in, then you just have to add in all these extra factors that Mother Nature throws at you: the wind, the snow, the cold itself. I mean, you have to be able to function and perform in those. And not only that, it's hard on the equipment to also go and perform. When it gets 40, 50 degrees below zero, fuel gel up. So you're trying to thaw out tractors to get going. Or here you got a piece of metal just gets cold. It goes to put it under a workload that you would do in the summer. It's cold, it snaps. So you have to go and fix that. Or trying to go and get parts, where here a blizzard might have blown through the night before. So it's like, okay, well, I need to get parts. First, I have to get this tractor started. Okay, now I got to dig out my driveway. So you're a couple hours in. Then I have to get on the road. Hope the road department is going to clear the roads going to town, that they're not icy. So spend 4 or 5 hours getting to town to get the parts, get back, and then try to fix the piece of equipment. Winter just adds 5 extra steps to everything that you generally would do. And if you try to rush through anything or get too far ahead of yourself, you're just putting yourself in a dangerous situation out here that, honest to God, I don't exaggerate, it could be life-threatening if you rush too much or if you don't take the time to do things right.
With not having control, because Mother Nature is beautiful and things happen, and sometimes they're not so beautiful and they're life-threatening. And you have to learn to work with not having control over the weather or the equipment.
I was lucky growing up a couple hours south of here. I mean, I understood what winter could be, but even sometimes the simplest things, going in, resetting the mind to it, where I was in Texas for 5 years, moved up last year, and here, go out to head to work. It's like, okay, I live 2 miles from where I need to usually meet up in the morning for work. I go out to start my truck and realize, oh, my windshield is covered in ice. Okay, well, I got to defrost and do that. So that's like, okay, well, there's a 10, 20-minute process. And something as simple as that, like, oh, wait, winter, that's right. I got to start thinking ahead of all these things, actually get up a little earlier, take care of this. Or just, there's just a lot of small details that you just have to take into account. And you have to provide yourself time to take care of these things. Or a lot of times where during the winter, what I'll generally have to do is, say a storm blows in. It'll storm for a couple days. It'll drop however much snow it wants. But then the next week, usually we just get a lot of wind up here. So it drifts the roads in every night. So
Mm.
here, my boss is on the one side of the highway. I'm on this side. We both get up about 3, 4 a.m., get in the tractors, and we just start digging, trying to open up the roads enough so that by, say, about 7 a.m., when our feed hands come, they at least have a road they can drive in, get to their tractors, and start clearing the roads more, feeding the animals. But it's just that much more. Where here you have to give yourself an extra 4 or 5 hours every morning to open up a road so that you can actually start your day's work.
Wow. I really love you telling us this because I think it builds awareness, extraordinary awareness for those who are living in a bubble and might not know what, living outside California is like or whatever it is, or their neighborhood. So I appreciate that. And that sounds like a lot of work. Oh, and what a
It,
thoughtful culture you live in. It seems like the people around you are very thoughtful, and that's just the culture and the aesthetic. Like, okay, this road isn't affecting me, but it's going to affect other people. So I'm going to get out my shovel and start digging and help, which is nowadays uncommon. So I just really appreciate this.
well, up here, I mean, we live in a somewhat remote area. And it's plain simply, I mean, you don't know if you're going to be the one stuck on the side of the road one day or if it's somebody else. And everyone knows where it's just like, well, if that was me, I sure hope somebody stopped behind and go and get me out. Or it's like, oh, there's a drift that needs to be cleared out. So getting out there and it's like, all right, move this out of the way so that I'm not the one that goes and plows into it some morning because somebody else didn't clean it.
Yes, and this could go for anything in life, really. We could translate this theme into anything. I'm curious about how the bison live. What's the day in the life of a bison?
well, we try to go and let these animals be as, I guess, natural to their instinct and to what they would do historically as they could be. Granted, what we do, we produce these bison for meat production is our primary goal in the end. We have our breeding herds that every year they go out, they stay in a pasture year round. They got their bulls with them, the cows. They go out, we'll feed them, supplement them during the winters when they have their calves. During the spring, summer months, they just raise their calves, do everything. And we only bring them in and really handle them, I guess, up close and in person once a year. The
Hmm.
less you handle these animals, the better off they seem to be. So we'll bring them in the winter. We'll go and check them over, vaccinate them. We'll sort the calves off just so that they can go into either being replacement animals for the breeding herds or into our feeder programs. But the rest of the time, they just kind of rotate around the pastures. They graze. They just act as bison should act, and we just let
Nice.
them do what they're going to do. And
I wish every farm and ranch was like that. I love hearing that. I love animals so much. So it's just nice to hear. You let them be. We just let them hang out and be bison.
well, we're lucky to be able to do that because I mean, like I said earlier, bison they're still wild animals. Even though this is a herd that we by hand by man have grown, we regulate, we control its numbers as it goes down. It's still a wild animal that has evolved to survive without man's interference. Whereas cattle, they're domesticated. They actually are been, I guess, through time and man manipulation, have developed to a point where they need, I guess, artificial supplementation from people, whether it's water sources, feed sources, to raising the calves to go and get by in harsh conditions where these bison they're designed to survive out there. Their bodies can capable of going out there. We're just supplementing them to make sure their lives are easier than they could be without our help.
Nice. You said that beautifully. Beautifully. That was
I'm not a I've only been in this for a short time. Here, I try to learn as much as I can from those that have been in this industry longer than I have. And then I just try to reflect and take what I've experienced and everything that they've taught me. So I'm not a guru. My boss knows and understands these animals so much better than even I do myself. I hope to one day learn as much as he does.
I love that mindset, Ethan. This is what I wish everyone had that mindset of, no, I'm not the best, but I can be, and I'm going to keep learning. I'll learn forever. I'll be a forever learner, and that'll just be my title of myself. And that's beautiful. That's a beautiful part of life too, is just the evolution of learning and
Mhm.
living and learning and growing and learning from our mistakes and looking to those who came before us. I love that.
Well, it's if you find yourself in a room full of people, and if you find yourself being the smartest one there, challenge yourself to find another room. Find more people that know more than you, have experienced more things than you, or have just a different perspective than you, so that you're constantly bettering yourself. Never settle just for where you are, but always keep on trying to become better.
Needs to be on a wall, on a shirt, a quote in a book. It's really something a lot of people, even myself, can take from a lot. It's also very humbling, Ethan. Stories you have, something that's happened to you that you've had to overcome with working in this weather or with these iconic animals.
I mean, I've been fairly lucky not to have any tragic horror stories from my time here, but we always got to respect these animals and just try to avoid those situations. That being said, there's still been times where here, when these animals are out in their fields or pastures, they can seem like a very docile animal. If you're getting closer to them, well, they have space. They can simply move away from you. They won't get stressed. They don't get pressured, and they'll just keep on keeping that. You can call it a buffer zone between where you're at and where they are.
Mhm.
But that one time a year when we have to bring them into closer proximity to work them or to go and sort out a load, here you're in a confined area, they're in pens, they can't always get away from you, so they may become a slightly bit more defensive and aggressive. That being said, none of us have ever been taken, but there's been plenty of times where here they're going in one direction, and these animals can be are so agile and so fast that here you think they're going exactly where they need to, and then they hit a hard 90 and they're coming right back. So everybody just makes a mad scramble, get up on a fence, let them run by, and then you try to do it again.
Okay,
Um,
whatever
it's
works.
it definitely pumping. In some cases, I mean, these animals, I mean, these are not a small animal. They can these large bulls. These bulls can grow up to 3,000 pounds. They can be up to 11 feet long. I mean, essentially, you got to treat them like a mini bug that can drive 35 miles an hour, and just know it can hit you as hard as that vehicle could. So in some cases, we actually use our equipment. We'll use tractors. We'll go and have the tractors get in there to kind of push the animals along because, well, a tractor's big enough that the animal will respect that and actually move away instead of trying to go and charge and knock you over. Um, but I haven't had any horror stories. I have had a couple bulls that have decided to go and walk me back to the fence and chase me up the fence in a hurry, but none of them have ever none of them have ever aided me up and over the fence as of yet. And I'm hoping to keep
Good.
that streak going.
Yes, I'm putting it out there that it will not happen. I'm holding positive thoughts for that. Yes. And like you said, just be aware. Just being aware will help you avoid those situations and being smart, a smart worker, smart about what you're doing, know what you're doing. Yes.
Situationally aware, knowing where you're at, where the animals are, where the animals need to go. Will they go there? If they choose not to, where are they going to go? Are you leaving yourself in a bad situation if something happens? Or it's like, okay, if this doesn't work, where I can get over here and I know I can be safe.
Yes. Yes. Thinking strategically. Think any last mindset tips that you have for others?
A lot of times it's going and being able to not get so overwhelmed at times, being able to stop, disconnect from work enough that here you can kind of reset your mind. You can retackle a problem that you're having to deal with or a project that needs to come up. Whereas I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it myself, we work for X number of hours a day and we know then we go home, but we never disconnect from that work. And then that problem or that project just plays over in our minds. We never get away from it and we never find different ways to solve it. Where just being able to disconnect a little bit, whether it's for a half hour, 15 minutes, or taking a day and just getting away from it and taking your mind off of it, you're able to come back refreshed, healthy mindset.
It similarly goes back to living in the present moment and having that the boundaries between your work and your home and having that disconnect it shows with you that it's so important because you have such a wonderful mindset and you work really hard and well, and you're constantly learning.
It serves me well, and I think a lot of people, especially after this last year, that so many people from COVID-19 have had to work from home. There is almost no disconnect from home life to work life, and then not being able to get out, not being able to go socialize. It was a very mentally tasking year for, I think, the entire world, having to go and live in almost a confinement or just live within yourself for a
Yes.
long period of time, where being able to find that way, even if you're working from home, living at home, being able just to step away from the computer. And when you do that, it's like, okay, I'm not going to worry about this for this next 20 minutes. I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. I'm going to go see my family. I'm going to go watch an episode of my favorite TV show just for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to come back and get back to work and finish what I need to do.
I'm really excited to post this because I'm confident people need to hear that and adapt a mindset similar. This is wonderful, Ethan. Thank you so much. And what you do is truly so incredible, fascinating, and needed, and hard work. Talk about building resilience with your body and your mind.
Well, no, I mean, I appreciate being able to talk about this. And like I said, I might not be the best at it, but these are, I guess, not exactly tricks, but maybe mental qualities or attributes or just goals that I set for myself and that have served me positively in getting to where I am.
Absolutely. This was amazing. I'm giving you a big virtual hug.
Well, it's shared both ways.
Thank you so much, Ethan.